In a small, misty town nestled by the rolling hills, lived a young man named Aaron. His duty was to tend to the old lighthouse, a solitary beacon that guided ships safely to the harbor. But a shadow had fallen over Aaron's spirit. The storm seemed to rage with a new ferocity, the sea more treacherous than ever before. With each passing night, as he lit the great lamp, a quiet doubt gnawed at him. He'd stare into the swirling fog and wonder, could his light, this one small flame against an immense darkness, truly protect anyone anymore? One evening, the sky turned a bruised purple, and a storm gathered on the horizon, moving with an unnatural speed. The wind began to shriek, a mournful sound that seemed to mock the very idea of safety. Aaron climbed the winding stairs and lit the lantern, its flame flickering bravely against the growing gale. But the wind howled, rattling the thick glass, threatening to extinguish the light with every gust. Aaron shielded it with his body, his knuckles white. He whispered to the empty room, his voice barely audible above the tempest. "I've failed before. The sea has won. Maybe I just can't do this anymore." With his hope dwindling, Aaron's thoughts drifted to old Gideon, the town's wise man, a keeper of stories and quiet wisdom. Desperate, Aaron braved the whipping wind and climbed the steep hill to Gideon's cottage. The old man stood at his window, gazing at the tumultuous sea below. He didn't turn as Aaron entered. "The storm is strong tonight," Gideon said, his voice calm and steady. "But the sea has always been this way, Aaron." He finally turned, his eyes kind but piercing. "It is not the strength of your hands that keeps the light alive. It is the belief you hold in your heart, the belief in your purpose. Trust yourself, young man, and that lantern will guide more than just ships. It will guide hearts, including your own." A small spark of hope ignited within Aaron, a tiny warmth against the cold fear. Returning to the lighthouse, Aaron felt a new resolve settling in him. The storm was at its peak now, a chaotic symphony of crashing waves and screaming wind. He held onto the lantern's frame, bracing himself against the lighthouse's shuddering walls. He repeated Gideon's words like a mantra. "Trust yourself. Believe in your purpose." He adjusted the massive lens, focusing the beam into the churning darkness. And then, through the thick curtain of rain and fog, he saw it. A faint, desperate light. A small fishing boat, tossed violently by the waves, perilously close to the jagged rocks that lined the shore. A surge of adrenaline coursed through him. All doubt vanished, replaced by a singular focus. Cupping his hands around his mouth, Aaron shouted into the gale, his voice raw but powerful, trying to guide the sailors. He knew they couldn't hear him over the storm, so he used the one voice he had left, the light. With renewed strength, he swung the heavy lantern, casting its beam in a deliberate arc, painting a path away from the deadly rocks. He signaled again and again, a silent, desperate conversation with the struggling vessel. Slowly, cautiously, the small boat began to turn, following his guiding light, inch by painstaking inch, until it finally navigated the treacherous passage and slipped into the safety of the harbor. The storm continued to rage for hours, but something inside Aaron had shifted. The fear was still there, a low hum in the background, but it no longer held him captive. He watched the relentless waves, not with despair, but with a quiet confidence. He finally understood. Fear only has the power we give it. It thrives in the soil of self-doubt. But by trusting in his purpose, by choosing to act despite his fear, he could become a beacon, a source of light in the darkest of nights. He stood tall at the lighthouse window, the lantern's glow steady and unwavering, a mirror of the newfound strength in his own heart. The next morning the storm had passed. The sun rose over a calm, glistening sea. As Aaron walked through the town, the people greeted him not just with gratitude, but with a deep respect. The sailors from the small boat clasped his hand, their eyes full of thanks. Children looked up at him with awe. But Aaron didn't feel a swell of pride from the recognition. Instead, he felt a quiet, profound pride in himself for having faced the storm within and won. He now knew, with a certainty that settled deep in his bones, that hope and courage were the true lights, capable of illuminating a path even when it seemed completely lost in darkness. From that day forward, the light from Aaron's lighthouse seemed to burn brighter. He lit the lantern each night, not just as a duty, but as a promise. It was a beacon for the ships navigating the unpredictable waters, yes, but it became something more. For everyone in the small town, it was a symbol of hope, A reminder that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, one small light, held with unwavering belief, has the power to overcome the greatest storm. And in its warm, steady glow, the entire town found the courage to face their own tempests, knowing they were not alone. Thank you for joining me for this story. If it touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content that inspires. We'll see